Hello, welcome to another video. Sorry I look crappy, I'm about to get ready. So before I get started with today's video, welcome back to another video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, check the notification bell, and so you get notifications on my future videos, and like the video if you enjoy it. Comment down below if you want to talk to me. So for today's video, backtrack a little bit. My last video, if you haven't watched it, is on the schools that I will be applying to, or that I'm thinking about applying to for med school. It's a long list. It's a list of 30 schools. So once I take the MCAT, I'm gonna probably cut it down a little bit more, depending on how I do on that test. And I kind of want to explain to how I chose the schools, because I kind of just listed all the schools that I wanted to apply to, but there was a lot of thought that went into it. I am also getting ready to go to my dad's house because it's my little sister's birthday, so that's why I'm not ready yet. So I will be getting ready and talking to you all about that. Okay, so I'm going to be adding more lotion to my face because it's been dry and peeling. Okay, so the first thing I did when I was looking for schools, the first helpful thing was signing up for MSAR. And so before you do that, you should apply to the AAMC's financial aid, financial assistance program. And they give you free access to MSAR, which I did not know, so I paid it out of my own pocket. It was only $30, so it's not gonna break you, but obviously if you have no money, don't spend it. You can save that money. So apply to the financial assistance program the year that you are getting ready to apply into med school, and they give you access to this program called MSAR, and I believe it's called the medical student admission requirement something website. And that website gives you access to all the medical schools that you can apply to using the AAMC. And you can put in your stats, you can put in filters of what types of programs you want to apply to. You can it has a billion filters. I think you could even filter it by price range, MCAT score, grades, all that stuff. And so that was super useful in compiling a list of schools that made sense for me to apply to in terms of grades. Obviously I shouldn't try to apply to the schools that you need 3.7s and 3.8s GPAs to apply to. I also wanted to find schools that accepted students with had previously accepted students with my GPA range, and it'll also show you where you lie. So on their scales in a sense. So say I had a 3.3 GPA, it'll tell me that I am at the lower end of all the students that are applying. I don't even know if that makes sense, but kind of graphs it out for you, and it shows you a little nice graph, and it shows me all the way at the end. So it makes you aware of that. I'm gonna put my foundation. And so I use that. I believe it was on that website where I filtered it to see if it had the PhD programs in epidemiology that I wanted to do, because I want to apply to MD PhD programs. And that one wasn't that helpful in that sense, because it would give me names of some schools, and then I would go onto their website to learn more about their program, and they didn't have it. So it would leave me very confused, because I think the filter was in general for MD PhD programs, but it didn't necessarily give me a list of schools that had the specific PhD program that I wanted to apply to. So that was kind of a waste of time, because I had I had a list of 40 schools or something, but not all of them had the program that I wanted to apply to. And so the list of initial schools that I had was just based off of GPA. What schools should I apply to that have accepted students with my GPA? And that was a good start. Then I was talking to my mentor and I'm like, oh my god, like it's taking me so long to find schools that actually offer the program that I want and that are actually able to support students who want to get their MD, PhD in Epi. Because this is a problem with a non-traditional route. They might have your program, like you might be able to get your PhD in epidemiology, but the school might not have the support system or staff to help support you throughout your PhD career, and you need mentors. Like you need people that are willing to help you and back you up, and you need an institution that's willing to back you up and everything. So I was trying to find people or like schools that would have an established program and like would have a lot of professors in like epi, or like would have departments of epidemiology, or even have schools of public health. And like not all of the MD PhD programs have a school of public health, even though they offer the PhD in epi. Like some of them just have departments of public health. So I was like, trying to look for that too. I think I had a pillow. And then like I kind of wanted to apply to schools too that like I've always dreamed of getting in, but probably not realistic. For example, like Harvard is on my list. Like, it's kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like they are well established, like everyone knows Harvard, and Yale too, and they have really good public health programs. They have really good medical schools. Like obviously they're known worldwide. And so like I would love to get into their programs, and especially because they do seem to have like a big network and like people who would be willing to support you if you go to that institution. And like, they're well known. They're kind of like a name brand. They're like, I don't know that many name brands, but they're like Louis Vuitton, compared to like other schools, or like, I don't know, they're a big name. And so like I would like to apply to them, but honestly the chances of me getting in, slim. Why? Because I did not get the best grades in undergrad, and for them it's most likely all about the grades. So because of my low GPA, I also tried to include a lot of schools that were not as well known as Harvard, because I want a good chance of getting into med school. And for that, you need to have a well-rounded school list. And so to do that, using the MSAR, I basically had 3 categories. And it's like you're applying to college all over again. I had schools that are somewhat safety. And for me, safety is not really even safe, like, because again, my GPA is always on the low side. But if they've accepted students with my GPA, or maybe they accepted a student with slightly lower GPA, because sometimes schools do accept students with like a 3.1 or a 3.0, or sometimes they'll even say on their websites like, oh, we've accepted students with 2.9s or something like that. Like I would somewhat consider them a safety school, but again, that is totally not common. So I put them on my list because obviously they look at students holistically and do try to give them somewhat of a chance, even though their GPA is not that great. So I made a list of those safety schools. Then the next category on mine was what was the next? Like the 50-50 schools, like it's maybe they've accepted one student in the past year with your stats, or maybe like it seemed like they were somewhat like reach schools in a sense, but not really. Like maybe they accepted students with like a 3.4 and above, but I have a 3.3. So like I'll still add it to my list because it's not that far away. Like if they're willing to look at a 3.4, they're probably willing to look at a 3.34, which is my GPA right now. You know, so like I made a list of those schools too that I was like close enough where they might give me a chance. And then the very last category, which is not many schools, I think it was only like a couple schools, and it might be actually a handful of schools. It might be like 5 schools, but I'll probably end up taking those off my list if I don't do good on the MCAT, are schools that have never accepted anyone with my GPA. And those would be schools like Harvard, like Yale, like maybe even Stanford. Probably has not accepted anyone with my GPA. But like, you know, those dream schools that you've always like thought of going to, or like kind of dreamed that you would see yourself there, and it's totally not realistic, but you're gonna shoot your shot. I'm gonna apply to maybe like 2 of those. Because why not? Because I gotta shoot my shot, you know? But also don't be stupid and shoot your shot to like 10 IVs and like not have IB grades. That's basically how I started making my list. That was the initial process. That was like phase 1. Like, look at the numbers, see if they match up, see if it's reasonable. Now, the round 2 of choosing schools. This is looking a little scary. Okay. Round 2 of schools is that all the schools on my list that I had added on, I looked up their websites and I checked out their public health programs and public health professors. Now, this part is tricky because even if they have an epidemiology program or whatever program you would like to apply to, your PhD is all about research. And if no one at that institution does the type of research you would like to do in the future, then you do not apply there. And so that is what I had to look up. My interests are also kind of broad, but I have, like, sometimes schools still might not offer it. But my research that I would like to do is cancer disparities. If the institution seems to like want to support me and like is super interested in me, like I will also kind of settle for like just health disparities, like not cancer related. But preferably I would like to do some type of cancer disparities research during my PhD. That is like my number 1 option. So again, had to look up the school's websites and stalk their pages, stalk the professors, look at their departments. Does anyone do the type of research that I want to do? And I think there was one school, they were like a really small school, or smaller than other ones, and they had like 5 professors in their department of public health, and none of them did like cancer research. And as I talked about finding support and schools that support you, having only 5 professors there would not, like, that doesn't look like I'll be well supported. So I took that school off my list. And so that's kind of how I kept narrowing it down by research interest, by people I might like to work with in the future. Also, doing that deep digging also helps to see if maybe you have any connections to that school or to that professor. So like, I don't know, say I love a professor at the University of Washington that does the research that I'm doing. They do cancer disparities research among Latinas, and their work is amazing, and it's something that I want to do in the future too. I could ask my bosses that I have worked with and be like, hey, has anyone heard of this person? Does anyone think they can connect me? And maybe that'll better my chances of getting into the program, because now I have someone to advocate for me at that institution. So that's why I'm like prepping everything in advance and trying to do it well. I haven't really talked to anyone yet, like if they know any of the professors at the school that I'm applying to yet, because it's still kind of far out. Like I'm not applying yet, and I just have an Excel sheet with like people that I might like to work with at different institutions. The next part is I would stalk the admissions stats page on each of the institutions. So one thing I learned about the MSAR website that I was telling you, the one that filters everything, is sometimes they don't report everything. So as I mentioned, one school wrote in their website that they have accepted students with like a 2.9 GPA, and that's just to let students know that they do look at applications holistically, right? When you look up that same school on MSAR, it does not have any record of them ever accepting a student with a 2.9 GPA. So either the school is lying or they didn't report it to like MSAR and put it on there. I'm assuming they didn't report it to MSAR just because they don't want like a bunch of students with 2.9 GPAs to apply. Like they probably want more competitive students. Who knows their reasoning, right? But I used a lot of the medical school's websites and MD PhD program websites to give me a little bit more hope in terms of me getting into their program. So if they said that they review applications holistically and they really care about your whole application, then I would like rank them higher on my list, you know? Or like highlight them, put a little asterisk next to their name. Just so I can remember in the future too that like these are schools that I would prefer to go to, because they do care more about the numbers. They care more about the student and the quality of work that they have done. Right? So if you are feeling down that your stats aren't good enough to apply into medical school, like obviously review your whole application as a whole. Like, do you have strains that can like maybe make up for the low grades? Maybe are you like myself that like has done everything in the world in terms of extracurriculars? You're kind of low at that GPA because of mental health issues. And then like shoot your shot. Obviously, if you haven't done many extracurricular activities and you don't really have a good reason for why your grades weren't that well, it does get a little bit more difficult. And that's maybe when like the post-bac programs would come in handy, or masters or DIY post-bacs. All right. So, where were we? You know, the bad thing about this stuff is I don't ever remember if my brushes are clean. So far, it all looks like the color that I chose, so it does look good. This one's blue. Good thing I didn't put this on my eye. But stalk the pages of the medical schools that you would like to go to. Sometimes you find out that they're better than you thought. I recommend looking at schools' mission statements to see if their values align with your values. So, for example, for me, a big one is diversity. Like, are you for diversity? Do you support minorities? What are you doing to try to include brown people, black people in the field of medicine? You know, like what are you doing? Because that's what I want to do. Like that's who I want to help. Like I want to help minorities get into the field so we can better take care of minority health and like attack all these issues such as like structural racism and like racism in medicine. Like that is what I want to do, right? But like, what if the school, those aren't their values? What if they value more research or leadership, or, you know, each school has their own qualities that they value. And so just looking at those to see if they align. And I think I was pretty shook too. One of my friends was telling me about the mission statement of, God dang it. Was it Duke? No, it wasn't Duke. I'm getting confused. Dartmouth. She was telling me the mission statements of Dartmouth. And that was a school like I never particularly had an interest in, just because I don't know anything about it. But then she was telling me all this cool stuff about it, and like it made me like sit back and think like, oh, maybe that's a school I should apply to, you know? So it's like things like that you because of searching on their website and doing your research, you might find a school that has that might be a better fit for you. And that's important too, because that's what medical schools look for as well. Like, they want to choose students that share the same values as them. So if you're already looking into their mission statement, then you're like a step ahead in the game. Like, they might ask you during your medical school interview, why do you even want to go to this school? And a good answer for that is by talking about their mission statement. And then you can be like, hey, well, your mission statement highlights these qualities that I also very much appreciate, and I share those same values. So, and then, you know, you could talk more about those things that you share in common and that you value. But like, you know, it's all about getting a head start. This is a game and you gotta know how to play it. So that's what I looked for as well. Oh, also, some schools too will put their like information of admissions directors or students, and honestly take advantage of that. Like, if somebody puts down their email and they're like, oh, contact me if you have any questions, like, contact them. Like, take advantage that they put their email there. They might take a minute to answer. I know I had done that with University of Wisconsin, Madison, because I was really interested in their program. They have a School of Medicine and Public Health, like it's combined. And I'm like, whoa, that's perfect, because those are the two things I want to do. So they actually seem like a really good fit. I know some doctors over there at the institution. And so I reached out to the director. I can't remember if she was the director of the MD PhD program or just the director of the MD admissions. But like, I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm really interested in going to this school. I have an imperfect application and I want to know like what areas I can better address to like increase my chances of getting into your program. And she actually reached out and she was super nice and super helpful. We had like a phone call and she was like giving me a lot of good tips. And I was like, yes, like this is what I need. I need a school that supports me before I even apply. Like they see me as a potential candidate and they're like already willing to support me. Like, I love that. That's beautiful. And if a school doesn't answer you, then red flag. No, just kidding. Like I said, some schools are busy, especially like if you try to reach out to Harvard and you're like, hey, I want to get into your school. Like, so does everyone, you know? So they might be harder to talk to, but maybe you can find a student that has gone there and talk to them. But yeah, I want to say I think that's it. So definitely use MSAR. I'll try to link it down below. Use MSAR and stalk the websites. See if you find any more useful information. And if you know people that have gone to school wherever you would like to apply to, like also reach out to them. Like let them know like, hey, I'm thinking about applying to this school for this program. Would you recommend it? Like, what any tips? Because for example, I met this doctor via Twitter and she's super cool. I really love her. She's a Latina from Washington. I believe she's a native to Washington. She might have been from Oregon. I don't know. I forget. But anyways, she's from the area over there, and she ended up going to Washington, University of Washington for her medical school, for their medical school program. And she told me about their program and how much she loves it. And like honestly, it sounded really cool. And she she was able to give me like the student perspective of what it's like to be a student and go there, because sometimes schools might seem all like gray and like rainbows and flowers, but low-key they're racist or something, you know? And it's not what you expected. So I want to know that, like, how was your experience as a Hispanic attending that school? And if it was anything short of awesome, then I don't want to go there. So yeah, so she was telling me she like really loved it, and then she also offered to like read my personal statements, which is like a win-win too, because like she knows what the school values. She knows because of her like experience there, and like I feel like it would just help me create a better application. So I did my eyebrows with this one, but it looks a little patchy still, so I'm gonna go in with a brush. The brush that I always use, and the Anastasia brow. I love this one, but it's all crusty and dry already. But whatever, it still gets the job done. I use this brush. It's like, it's not that thin, but it is pretty thin. Okay, and yeah, don't be afraid to use your network. If you do know any doctors, like reach out to them, have them help you with your personal statements, have them help you, or maybe give you feedback on the list of schools that you're thinking about applying to, because sometimes they might have a little bit more background knowledge on the schools, and maybe they'll be able to give you some input on what they think about the schools that you're applying to. Okay, so I added my mascara, eyeliner on the bottom, and lipstick. And it's a liquid lip by Jeffree Star. I think it's in the color Leo. I should probably brush my hair. Yeah, use your network. Don't think you're like bothering people. Like by now you should have probably attended like conferences, maybe like any type of pre-med conference or research conference, and if you haven't, then attend them. There's a ton right now that are virtual. You don't even have to leave your house, so definitely attend those and start getting emails, numbers, and reach out to them. And even if like you don't want to sound like you're just like using them or anything, because you're not, you're just trying to get them to help you, you can be like, hey, like I want to learn more about what you do as a doctor. What's your job like? Like, can we set a time to have a Zoom call? And most of the time, well, actually I have never had anyone tell me no, but like most of the time also they get super excited because everyone loves talking about their career, and especially if they're minorities too, they love, I'm hoping that they love mentoring other minorities. And it goes like the same for myself. Like if you ever reach out that you need help or you want to talk about something, and even though I'm a student myself and like I don't know everything, like I will do my best to help you because I want to see you succeed as well, you know? Okay guys, this is why I don't brush my hair, because now it looks all frizzy. So I'm gonna have to put some products in it. Yeah, so definitely use your network, and if you don't have one, create one. Like start reaching out to people. You also make a med Twitter, and if y'all want me to make a video on that, on how to create a med Twitter, let me know, comment down below. Basically what it is, it's a regular Twitter account, but it's used in a professional way to network. And network in the sense like I have been telling you about, like finding doctors who are maybe in the field that you want to pursue, and finding mentors through Twitter, but also people post opportunities like research opportunities, virtual opportunities to do things. Like there was a flyer for like virtual shadowing that was going around. I post a lot of the flyers about things that I'm a part of, like LMSA. They've been having talks every Sunday, and so I just posted the flyer this past week about their talks because I love their talks. So like things like that, you know, like everyone likes to post flyers about whatever they're attending or whatever they're like interested in. So definitely make a Twitter, because you can find out about more events that are happening in your field, and you can connect to people. And like honestly, like Twitter has been a blessing for me as well. Like I have connected to so many other doctors, and like it also makes you feel like you're not alone in this journey. And I think that's something very common. Like it's very common to feel like you're alone, because you don't see that many Hispanic doctors, you don't see that many Black doctors. And it's really hard to come across people that look like you, especially like for me, it might not be that hard because I live in a big city. You know, I live in Chicago, and there's a lot of diversity here, and there's a lot of doctors here who are minorities. But like if you're from a smaller town in any other state, or even like the suburbs of Chicago, you might not ever run into a Hispanic doctor until like you're working in a bigger hospital or something. You know, it might be more rare. So definitely use Twitter, and like the video if you want me to make a tutorial on how to make a med Twitter, and I can show you my account. Or you can also follow me and see it for yourself. I think my handle is my name, like KryzTalPena. But if not, I will write it down somewhere here below and just copy and paste that into Twitter and follow me. And thank you all for listening to this rant. I hope you liked my makeup. If you're interested in the products that I used, I could put it in the description box below too. And I will see you guys for the next video. Hope you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell, the notification bell, and like the video. Thank you guys. See you.